Hi everyone, and today I'm sitting here with the lovely Ruby Osman, who is the author of Self-Care for Parents and has just worked tirelessly to launch her own website, which is an amazing combination of beautiful healing work and information that you'll be able to get and you'll hear more about in this discussion that we're going to have together. So Ruby, I don't know if you want to say a few things about yourself here.
So the website is Healing Wounds Together, and it's all about creating a platform for adults who have experienced sexual abuse in their childhood. I have experienced sexual abuse in my childhood as well for many years, and over the period of time through my own healing journey I realized that we just don't talk about these things.
We don't.
We keep them under the carpet, we do not talk about it, but they're evident in everything we do. They affect our relationships, it affects our sense of self, it affects our relationship, our intimacy, our sexuality. So by creating this platform, I am hoping to create hope, because healing, even though it may seem difficult, but it's a beautiful journey because we discover more of who we are, we own our needs, we respect other people's needs, and then we work out a way that can create a win-win situation. So I'm here to introduce this website, but also let you know that it is going to be okay.
Why would you want to open those wounds? Why would you want to go there in the first place? And I thought, Ruby, you could talk a little bit about what it was like for you to start this journey and start healing and some of the fears you might have had and some of the things that you did along the way.
Yeah. I think before I go into healing journey and how I started, I do want to talk about what it was like before I went on to healing journey.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting because I was abused from when I was very young for many years, and it wasn't by one person, it was almost like an epidemic, because I was sexually abused by many men who were neighbors, who were relatives, who were of all ages and all kind. And as a child I did not really know what was going on. I knew something was wrong, but also I was really confused. When it all ended, I came out with it and I said, oh my God, I have done something really wrong. So I was filled with this sense of shame, and that shame then resulted into I don't deserve love, and the only way I can deserve love is if I help other people and rescue other people. So I went on to this journey of rescuing other people so that I can feel better about myself. It didn't go very well. I attracted men who were not very respectful. I didn't trust men. I wasn't able to open up, so my relationships weren't coming from an open communication, open connection. It was more around, oh my God, you're after something, so I better watch out and I better protect myself. And it's a very hard place to live from, to watch out constantly about who is after me, or who I can trust, or I need to be in control because I'm so afraid that if I let go, that everything is going to fall apart. On the other hand, that also creates a passion, or maybe let's call it aggression. So I was very successful in my life, still am. I have achieved great success in business, in my career. I have held regional positions. But all of that success aside, there was something missing in my heart, because I wasn't able to live in peace. And I could not understand, why am I attracting men who abuse me all the time? It's like, aren't there good men around? And sorry to men if you're watching it, but that's how it felt like at that point in time, that you as a man is after something and I need to protect myself because I did not trust. That's it. I do not want any men. That's it. There is something going on and I need to figure out what it is. and I think that was the point, that I was just tired of not living a life of love, a life of peace and relationships where it's open and it's giving and receiving and all the things that we want in our lives.
Yeah.
And the journey of healing has been long, and it has its ups and downs. But I'm sitting here today and I'm smiling, so I have come through all of those things. And I think the biggest thing that I realized is that when something happens in our childhood, it affects not only our body, it affects our mind, it affects our emotions, it affects everything that is there. And for me to go through this healing journey, I had to understand the neurological handling of trauma, the conscious brain, the unconscious brain. But then I also had to go to body and its physiology. Where do I hold the trauma? And do you know that if women, mostly, if they're sexually abused, they hold trauma in their pelvic area? Because that's the part that was traumatized.
Yeah. So you're saying there's quite a connection, and I believe there's too, between the mind and the emotions and what we call spirit and the body. And when we get traumatized, we sort of carry that with us. Where you didn't want to live like that anymore.
Yeah, it was strange actually. I was out camping with a friend, and the conversation went pretty personal, so I shared what had happened to me, and I was crying, and at that point in time I was looking for assurance, but he was completely disconnected at the time. So I don't know how to put it, but I had to be in my own space without getting any assurance. And at that point in time, it felt very lonely, and I felt, how did I come to this point where I allow someone to disrespect me like that? How did it come to that? And
that's a great question to ask yourself, and I'm sure that a lot of people ask themselves the same thing.
Yeah, and then the thing came is that if I don't respect myself, no one else will. If I don't love myself, no one else will. And that was the turning point.
And that's a massive, massive reflection. And that's when you sort of realize, I have some ownership here, there's work I need to do here to turn this around.
Yes.
But the question would be, and I know I have different trauma, but where do you begin? Where do you begin, and how long is it going to take, and why would you want to go back there?
I believe that when things happen to us, if we don't handle them, then they stay in our body. So it's not a question of whether you want to go back or not. It's part of you. It's a question of whether you want to acknowledge that it is part of you or not. And for me, that was the question. Do I want to really acknowledge all that had happened to me, or I want to live this unconscious, ignorant being and don't want to deal with it, which means that my rest of the life would be exactly like my life before. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go through the same cycle of unconscious hurt, unconscious abuse, disrespect. I just did not want to.
No.
And somehow, at some level, I had to trust my intuition, right? So it started with mind-based therapies. So counseling, hypnotherapy, EMDR, if you know what that is. Do you know what that is?
I think it's good too.
Yeah, EMDR is eye movement desensitization therapy, which is all about reintegrating various parts of your experience and the trauma that had occurred to bring it back into a cohesive form. Because what happens is that when trauma occurs, brain takes all of these separate bits and stores them in different parts but doesn't connect them together. So you may react to things, but you would not know why you're reacting to it. So unless
that's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, and of course I needed that to be able to go through all of that. So it started with psychotherapy, it started with hypnotherapy, and then it has taken me to so many places, kinesiology, flower essences, spirituality, body work, sexuality work, intimacy work, counseling I mentioned, meditation. There you go. It has taken me to all different levels of our consciousness, our understanding our feelings, understanding how brain works and how bodies interacts with brain and how our beliefs affect all of that. It's almost like a holistic methodology. Not one thing would work for everyone, but if you try lots of things, then you will know what works for you, what doesn't work for you.
You're saying is that it takes a lot of personal, individual work on yourself.
And responsibility.
And a responsibility and commitment to want to heal. And how that's going to look is going to be different for each and every one of us. And Ruby said that it's, what works for you, what doesn't, and taking a holistic approach, which basically means coming at it from all angles.
And that's where my website comes into play. So on my website, I will share through blogs initially all different methodologies that have worked for me. So over the period of time, it's an educational platform, because you will know if you go into kinesiology, whether that feels right. What does it mean?
What is kinesiology?
That's right. What is kinesiology? Or what is hypnotherapy? Whether it is for you or it is not for you. Whether meditation will work for you, or I am going to give you all the resources and all the information that you would need, and I'm here to help you as well through this journey so that you can find what works for you.
And yes, she still works on herself. We're always still working on ourselves.
All our lives.
But what you learn is how to do that. And,
yes.
And you don't get frightened of those triggers or those feelings that come up for you. So I think maybe before we finish this, it would be really great, Ruby, if you could talk a little bit more about some of the additional things to her website, because there's some things in there that I really, really love.
Yeah, so my website, there are a few strands that I think that they are all important to when we talk about sexual abuse. There is about understanding trauma, which is obviously very important, because once we understand, it's no longer the scary thing that's sitting here. It makes sense, and it's no longer as scary. I'll also share my healing journey so that you can learn about various methodologies that are available and then choose for yourself. I will interview people and therapists who have helped me, and I also have a place for partners.
Fantastic. Because
when I was in relationships, my partners did not know what was going on. Why did I behave in ways that I did? But imagine if they have that understanding, then they can help me, because we can't heal alone. We just can't. We just work with other people. So I want to create a platform for partners so that they can help their partners heal. There is also something about prevention, right? Because the people who actually do these horrible things to children, they need our help as much as we need help. Because through my experience, I have learned that it's those people who aren't able to cope with their lives that they react, and they sometimes hurt other people. So there's a lot about partners, there's a lot about understanding trauma, healing journey, as well as information for partners, so that we all bring this together and help each other. And of course, I have some stuff for fun stuff there as well, because it all gets too heavy. So I'll share fun stuff, just different things that I do, like bungee jumping and things like that. Just things that allow me to take risk and then know that I've survived. And yes, it's okay. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I hope that by sharing my journey and by sharing this information with you, that I can create hope in you, and that you no longer have to be driven by the experience. You can actually set yourself free.